Day 2. We are adding and subtracting integers. Today we are going to be focusing on subtracting integers and solving problems involving integers. So, one note, subtraction is the same as adding the opposite of the second number. So 9 minus 5 is equal to 4, but 9 plus negative 5 is also equal to 4. They're the same exact problem. If I had started at 9, whether I subtract or add a negative, I move to the left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spots, and I end up with 4. So, subtract an integer, you add its additive integer, or its additive inverse, which is its opposite. Fun little phrase to help you remember this is add a line and change the sign. For these couple examples, we are just going to change them into adding the opposite. We're not going to find the actual answer. So 4 minus 6, the first number stays the same, the minus becomes a plus, and the second number becomes its opposite, so 6 becomes negative 6. For negative 3 minus 2, the first number stays the same, the minus becomes a plus, the second number becomes its opposite. And quick note, the reason I put the parentheses around the second negative number is because it just cleans up our equation a little bit. So for negative 5 minus negative 7, first number stays the same, the negative 5 stays the same, the minus becomes a plus, and the negative 7 becomes its opposite, which is positive 7. And for 6 minus negative 3, the 6 stays the same, the minus becomes a plus, the negative 3 becomes its opposite, which is just 3. So now let's do some examples of actually subtracting our integers. We're going to start by rewriting them. Just like we did on the last page, negative 6 stays the same, the minus becomes a plus, negative 5 becomes its opposite, which is positive 5. Now we use our rules for adding integers. A negative plus a positive, so I have more negatives. My answer is going to be a negative, and then I subtract. 6 minus 5 is 1, my answer is negative 1. For negative 3 minus 13, I change it into negative 3 plus negative 13. Both numbers are negative, so I just add the two together and stick the sign on in the end, which makes negative 16. For negative 6 minus 9, first number stays the same. Change it into a plus, and the opposite of the second number, so I have negative 6 plus negative 9. Both of these numbers are negative. I just add them together and stick the negative sign on in the end, which makes negative 15. For 5 minus 18, I'm going to change it into 5 plus negative 18. At this point, I have more negatives, so I subtract 18 minus 5, which gives me 13. And since I had more negatives, my answer is negative 13. For negative 1 minus negative 11, my first number stays the same, the minus becomes a plus, negative 11 becomes its opposite, which is positive 11. Negative 1 plus 11, I have more positives, so my answer is positive, and I subtract 11 minus 1, which leaves me with 10. And for 32 minus 35, the 32 stays the same, becomes a plus, negative 35. At this point, I have more negatives, so my answer will be negative. I take 35 minus 32, and I get 3, so negative 3 is my answer. Now let's try some more practice problems. Negative 6 minus 1. I change this into negative 6 plus negative 1. Both numbers are negative, so I add them together and give my answer a negative sign. 14 minus negative 7 changes into 14 plus positive 7. 14 plus 7 is simply 21. A quick application problem. The temperature in Caribou, Maine was 8 degrees Fahrenheit at noon. By 10 p.m., the temperature changed by negative 8 degrees Fahrenheit. Find the temperature at 10 p.m. So to set this up, we start with 8. We change, so we add on negative 8 degrees. 8 plus negative 8 is 0. Label our answer 0 degrees Fahrenheit at 10 p.m. Your assignment for today.